Hi, I'm Lanny Pator.
And I'm Kaiser Neko.
And this is Dragon Ball Z Abridged Behind the Scenes.
Episode 3.
The finale.
The Saiyan and Frieza sagas made up the first 2 seasons and 5 years of Team 4-Star's Dragon Ball Z Abridged series, during which they transformed from a quaint online parody show to a fully fledged comedy production viewed by literally tens of millions of people per episode. With drastically improved voice acting, editing, and writing across the board, their little series quickly elevated to never-before-seen heights once episode 30's climax graced our screens. However, perhaps the most impressive aspect of this was that their very best was yet to be seen. The next and final 5 years of their production covered possibly the most popular and anticipated chapter in the Dragon Ball story, the Cell Saga. And boy, did they deliver. With each season, Dragon Ball Z Abridged became more and more complex. How did you deal with the increased scope of the series as it progressed?
Transitioning to Season 3 was actually pretty easy because it was a natural evolution from what we were doing already in Season 2, which was, okay, we have these characters, now let's let them...
Breathe?
Yeah, let's let them breathe. Let's see what they can do and what they would do in these given situations.
I wanna be a Super Saiyan! I wanna!
We were adapting with what the tastes were at the time, what our tastes were specifically, and just trying to up our game in pretty much every level. And I know you took on way more tasks when it came to like cutting things out of scenes, putting things where they didn't belong. In the Cell games, we got rid of 3 entire characters.
We got rid
Specifically, you got rid of them.
Yeah, we got rid of Karoni, Piroshki, and Pizza because we
nothing.
hated them.
They added nothing.
They're the worst. They are the worst. They are the worst addition the anime ever made.
You heard that, Space Orphans and Bulma the Frog?
At least
you
they
heard
were
that.
their own secluded
It's true.
episodes.
At least
Okay,
they
except for the Space Frog. The Space Frog was ugly. But yeah,
they were not fun.
like Piroshki, Karoni, and Pizza ruin Satan's joke. Satan's whole thing in that arc is ruined because of those characters, because they are the worst versions of his joke, and I hate them. They ruin his entrance. They just take up time and space.
It's Pizza! Piroshki! And Karoni! And we are...
His entire thing is that he's supposed to be like humanity's pinnacle. He is the fish out of water there.
Yeah.
That is way out of his scope, trying to pretend he has his shit together.
Leave me out of this!
We had established these characters, and now it was time to write character-based humor. Because a lot of the humor before was kind of like, oh, look at this silly scene, let's subvert the scene. Where now we were writing of, okay, now we have these characters, let's play this scene with those characters and see how it pans out.
And it's also where we decided to actually give some of the people that didn't have characters a little bit more time to breathe, like Tien and Yamcha and Chaozu, who became significantly snarkier after dying the second time.
Yeah, no, when he comes back a second time, he has died twice and he does not.
I absolutely loved writing for Chaozu in a lot of those scenes where it's just like, oh, I don't give a shit, whatever, I've died twice.
Your discretion is advised.
The one thing you'll notice is that season 3 is full of straight men. Like all over the place. Ten Shinhan's got a bigger role, 17 and 18, Piccolo. You've got all of these characters that are a lot more down to earth. It's not like Nappa or Popo or Goku. Hell, Gohan steps up to be the hero of that season.
Who was the hardest to write for.
The hardest to write for. Oh, and Trunks. Trunks' entire character in that saga is that he really wants to be the cool hero, and he's just not. He's a failure. Trunks' whole thing is that he tries and fails, but he never gives up.
He wants to be cool. He's a teenager. He wants to be accepted by these people he grew up hearing about, the people he knows as heroes. It's like a kid meeting the Justice League and wanting to prove himself.
Yeah, and then finding out that the Justice League is something more
super incompetent.
Yeah, just either full of assholes or idiots.
Okay, Trunks, don't be nervous. He's just a normal guy. Just introduce yourself. So, you're Sun Wukong, right?
Damn it! I'm Son Goku, yes?
Roll with it.
It was easier and harder in different ways. Easier because luckily we had established these characters and now they could just bounce off each other very naturally. But harder in that we had a lot more straight men and serious moments to deal with.
Well, Frieza, looks like you dropped the ball. Dropped the ball.
While having a deep, comprehensive understanding of how the show would play out from start to finish was indeed a huge help in the writer's room, as the show went on, the writing standards for the series shot higher and higher also, and that very unwavering commitment to quality meant the show would take longer to produce with each passing season. Has it always taken a long time to write these episodes? What was the quickest turnover time you've had for one?
Sometimes it can take a lot longer though. Sometimes it goes a lot quicker. Sometimes it's a BoJack.
The turnaround time after it's been written, usually there's the directing, then there's the editing, and the editing process can be harder or easier depending on the kind of jokes that we write, the length. It's about an 80-hour process after the actual scripting.
Typically, when we're actually, working on this stuff, there's no break in there either. For a big chunk of season 3, I can't remember what the streak was, but we were going for like a year and a half straight on some of that stuff, and it wore us down.
When a goddamn Super Saiyan asks you for a sensu bean, bald man, you say, how many?
When you burn out on the creative process, you can't push through that. You don't push through that. You have to give space, you have to recoup, you have to pull yourself away because you push yourself through writer's block, not through burnout.
For so long, I think it's the pipe dream of ours to say like, hey, we're gonna sit down and we're going to write multiple episodes. We're going to write out a season and we're going to work on that little by little and release it on a regular schedule. But that comes with its own big complications because then you have to stop everything else in order to do specifically one thing for a block period. And you got bills to pay, man. It's hard.
Yeah.
Maintaining a single project's momentum for over 12 years is a difficult task for any studio. However, if you add constant copyright claims, countless takedowns, and the inability to monetize your work to the list of things working against you, it's not hard to imagine shows like this being abandoned after just a few episodes. However, Team 4 Star stuck with this show despite all of these hardships for two main reasons: a love for the source material and a desire to entertain and uplift fans like you and I around the world. Whether it be through scenes like Krillin's death on Namek or Vegeta's pink shirt, no moment was too big or too small to inject their trademark wit and personality. You've mentioned a number of times at various panels that you don't normally plan ahead, but you do have jokes in mind, sometimes in advance. What joke have you waited the longest to tell?
You have heard probably the one that we planned the furthest ahead, and that was the destruction of the own count. Android 18 and Krillin. We didn't have the whole joke written out or anything like that, but we knew that was going to be the payoff of the own counter. That was the one that we probably planned the furthest ahead for when it comes to actual jokes. There were a lot in season 3 that we planned ahead on. That was definitely the one that we waited the longest on.
Dragon Ball Z originally aired in Japan between 1989 and 1996. However, the majority of us Western fans would likely have discovered the show during its initial international run from 1996 through to 2003. When Team 4 Star took over the Abridged project 6 years later in 2008, its run until 2019 would be only a couple years shy of the original broadcast and international runs combined. With a small team of people, an insane amount of passion and love went into making Dragon Ball Z Abridged a reality, a series many of us fans will surely be revisiting for years to come. Do you have any favorite or least favorite moments from the Abridged series?
In Lord Slug, one of my favorite jokes that we ever did is that Looney Tunes moment where Piccolo is fighting Dododabo and he breaks his arm, kicks him off the rooftop, and we just do this Looney Tunes thing where he keeps going back up, getting knocked back down.
All right, go for the left. He won't see me coming from... Oh, I saw it coming! Fine, I'll wait down here and catch him off guard. Hey, how's it going?
This is one that always comes back to me as a line that I personally really liked and resonated great with the audience, which was,
Trunks, you couldn't fathom the amount of dead men behind me.
Some of our actual favorite moments from the series, as people that made it, are some of those more serious moments that do resonate very well. Tackling Gohan going Super Saiyan 2, redoing the entire score for that.
which I pushed for.
You pushed for a very long time.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna get a rescored, I'm gonna get a new singer, it's gonna be in English, it's gonna be fucking crazy.
By my power, whoa, it's clear to me.
Actually, I thought of another favorite.
Oh.
And this is one that, like, it's just, I was just very proud of us when we did it. Because when we were watching through the scene itself, we noticed that they implemented the Wilhelm scream.
Oh, yes!
It had nothing to do with any actual characters. It was just two Frieza soldiers talking back and forth.
Doesn't it sound like...
Nah, dude, it's more like.
No, that wasn't it either.
That was totally it!
I just thought that, like, that was one of my proudest comedic moments.
As for least favorite,
If I had to go with one specifically, it might be the swapping of Raditz's actor fighting over the microphone thing.
Double shot! No! Give me the mic!
What? No, come on, man.
Give me the mic!
actually, I have one. The nightmare scene that Bulma has of Vegeta.
Oh, yeah.
I regret how we wrote that scene because it was unnecessarily dark, and it was back during a time where...
That sort of dark humor was all the rage.
Yes.
I'm not here for the Dragon Ball.
What?
Spread 'em.
It's weird how humor and comedy, things change so rapidly and so quickly, and the atmosphere, the ecosystem that within you work, it's so difficult to keep up with it. It is a challenge in the day-to-day, and it's not one that I like to complain about because, hell, everybody's got that problem. All creatives have that problem, but it definitely keeps you on your toes.
I think it's probably been a thing that kind of helps, though, just like the long form of how we worked with the show is just like, as we went on, we did adapt and we did change.
It's hard to say we objectively got better, but I would definitely, it stands to reason to say that over time we improved our writing, our editing, our acting, everything got better as time went on, and I legitimately don't believe that we would have done that if we weren't challenged, if we didn't want so desperately to keep things fresh.
Compelling characters are the heart of any narrative, and so Team 4-Star was given the task of taking Dragon Ball's expansive cast, most of whom many of us have known since childhood, and molding them into a caricatured version of themselves, all the while maintaining their recognizable personalities. For the most part. In the Abridged series, you've written characters like Vegeta, Goku, and Frieza as exaggerated versions of the original characters, but Cell seems to be doing his own thing entirely. How did you approach writing him?
Taka. In the writing room, when it comes to characters that are voiced by one of the writers, that writer will be way more prominent in coming up with some of the stuff for that character. Now, as Cell went on, as he became Perfect Cell, Imperfect Cell was Taka doing his best to make the most weird, disturbing, but incredibly deranged. I believe at the time he said he wanted it to be a cross between Beetlejuice and Wishmaster.
Yeah.
Like that kind of a character where it's like, okay, I'm gonna get you, but I'm gonna have fun while I'm doing it. I'm here to flex on you.
His introduction is one of my favorite scenes from that arc. Like, bar none, my favorite scene, actually, this scene may be my favorite scene that I've ever worked on, is when TJ
and the Wombat
doing their radio show, and corresponding with their show, you have Cell wandering around eating people, and you don't see him on screen. You constantly see him just off screen, his shadow. You never actually see him for the most part. And as it goes on, the town becomes a ghost town, and then at the very last second, he's breaks into the studio. Video Killed the Radio Star plays in the background, and then the last thing you hear is the song playing before it cuts to black. And
You had a lot of fun editing that scene, and we had a lot of fun coming up with and writing, because that was the most different scene I think we ever did for at least that season, maybe for the whole show, just because it allowed us to be way more creative than anything we had done previously.
Yeah, and I remember we were like, okay, how do we make this scene work if there's no dialogue? And then
we were debating cutting the Nicky Town scene, but the scene preceding it with Cell talking to himself was just too good.
Hey there, Cherry. What's your name? My name is Nicky Town. Who are you? Name's Cell. And you are looking fine.
Imperfect Cell specifically was easily the creepiest character we worked with, if only because he is literally a monster that eats people.
We wanted to make a character that was highly unsettling and yet could be very funny. And that's why you have scenes where he's talking to himself.
Yelling at the bus driver who's honking at him after he whips his head 180 degrees around with us, like playing Jeepers Creepers, because we were making a Jeepers Creepers 2 reference there.
Beep.
It was a very fun character to work with because he's such a different villain early on. Eventually, he just kind of becomes Frieza meets a Saiyan. Like, his prominence characteristics shift dramatically towards Frieza and Vegeta at the more perfect side of his life cycle.
Of course, semi-perfect Cell is one of those, he's like that weird puberty stage. Even in the original version, is a little.
He's possessive. He's domineering. He's cocksure. He knows he's not perfect.
So this is what lips feel like.
That character was sort of interesting because he kind of looks and sounds like an idiot, but we also wrote some scenes where he's legitimately intimidating. And then when Perfect Cell came along, it was really just, okay,
now
he's perfect. I don't give a damn about any of you motherfuckers.
He's in control. He loves what he's doing, and he just wants to have the best fight he can because of the Goku in him.
What do you think of our glorious battleground?
It's alright. Kinda small, innit?
I prefer intimate.
We wrote him and Goku in that arc to be fight sexual. They treat fighting like fucking. That's their whole thing.
They love the art of fighting, and they treat it like the most intimate relationship it could possibly be.
Which is why when Goku switches out for Gohan, he's like,
So, you knew what this was. Just a fight. Nothing more.
You bitch.
While Goku and Cell's conflicting personalities played well with their mutual love for fighting, the true highlight of the Cell saga would undoubtedly be the titular character's clash with the young Son Gohan. With his Super Saiyan 2 transformation being a fan favorite, many of whom hailing it as the best moment the original series produced, both hype and expectations among viewers was understandably high. However, just before the climactic battle would commence, the show seemingly vanished.
I quit. Gohan, get him. What?
Nani?
In a year.
What exactly brought on the hiatus, and how did that affect the writing of the last episodes? How far in advance was the hiatus planned, if at all?
I can't really say that the hiatus was planned so much. Part of it was due to burnout. We'd worked very, very hard on that season. We had been more involved with the show during that arc than I feel like we'd ever been before, because something you'll notice, the editing for season 3 is a step above season 2, just as season 2 is a step above season 1. We started getting actual like new lip flaps for characters, new art, new assets, new animation. It was so much more involved. They were longer episodes. We were taking more and more care to make sure that they worked. We were getting new music, everything. We were trying to make season 3 as good as we possibly could. And at some point, man, it hit us hard that we needed some time to relax and take a step back and prepare for what was going to be a 3-part super long finale.
Thinking of you, Goku!
But another reason was that we had actually moved to a new studio. We had gotten a new CEO. We were really kind of trying to refocus ourselves. One of the things that we realized was, hey, sooner or later, Dragon Ball Z Abridged is gonna end.
No matter what happened, we had a finite amount of episodes.
Yeah, and we needed to prepare for that. Because here's the thing, we had Let's Plays, and we had some small reviews, and
and as things went on, I mean, Let's Plays on YouTube have dipped significantly over time anyway.
Yeah, we had to make a decision. We had to figure out what is the life of Team 4-Star beyond Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
And furthermore, what can we actually make money on?
Yeah, so we had to make the decision to take a step back from Dragon Ball Z Abridged, give it some air, and focus on new projects. And, you know, I will definitely apologize for making people wait, because, you know, obviously I don't like making people wait on material. I didn't want to wait on material. I
mean, we know full well what people subscribed for.
Yeah.
We know. We aren't ignorant to that, as many people might think we are.
Yeah.
We understand,
but I will never, and I'll say this outright, I will never apologize for planning our future and working hard for it, because there are many wonderful people who work at this company, myself not included. And I would like to make sure that all of them have the opportunity to do the things that they love for a living.
It's really not uncommon for passion to conflict with responsibility over the course of a project's lifespan. Creating what you love may fill your heart, but oftentimes not your stomach, and DBZA being a non-profit fan-made parody made the gap between creative desire and financial necessity all the greater. Still, however, Team 4-Star were steadfast in their commitment to the completion of Season 3, and having honed their writing chops over the first 2 seasons, they were confident in their ability to add a dramatic flair to the 5-year-long endeavor. In Season 3, you were much more willing to explore serious scenes, play them straight, and even write your own. Was this the theme from the get-go with Season 3, or did it just sort of happen?
I won't lie, when we were writing out the scene with Goku leaving, we actually had to make the decision of whether or not he was going to say, "I love you." And we cut that, because it felt...
It doesn't feel Goku.
No, it didn't. But one of the things that I definitely wanted in there, and this line, for some reason, meant so much to me. And the line was,
"I'm proud of you, son."
Well, yeah,
that's me.
Yeah, that's your line. My line was actually, "That year we spent in the chamber was the greatest year of my life." That was supposed to be Goku saying, "That time I spent with you, that was so important to me." That is Goku's way of saying, "I know we don't always see eye to eye on what the things that we enjoy, but that made me very happy."
Bye, son.
That theme of fatherhood, that knowing that your father might be an imperfect person, and just being a kid and hearing those things.
And also, the dramatic irony of, "Bye, son."
Well, that was the one that was like my big sticking point. It's like, we've made this a running joke. "Bye, son" has been a running joke. It needs to be the emotional capper of this scene.
Which is so us, actually, to take a joke and then make it part of a big dramatic moment.
And hey, if we do make it out of this, please pick up my head and beat your father to death with...
Gohan going Super Saiyan 2, I think, was the one that we put the most, like, this is the moment that we are going to play as straight-laced as possible. This is fan wankery. This is us doing a love letter to Dragon Ball Z, which essentially is what like the entire latter half of Season 3 was for us. Was just us trying to show how much we absolutely love this product.
I mean, yeah, it's true. If I had to say anything, Season 3 is our love letter, top to bottom, actually. Speaking of love letters, during the credits, at the very end, there is a scene of 16 underneath a tree with a music box version of Unmei no Hi playing. Android 16, and I want to put emphasis on this character, was not a character I expected to love writing for when we started. By the end of the saga, Android 16 became my favorite character in that arc, maybe the show, and it meant the world to me that he had a happy ending. Because he never got that in the original. He didn't get any kind of, like, he goes out with a tragic death that ultimately has no thematic relevance afterward. It just kind of like, nothing ever comes back with it. There's no narrative follow through. He dies, and then he doesn't get back because apparently he doesn't have a soul.
It's kind of ironic that he can be kind of the emotional core to a lot of those Android scenes where, you know, they're just kind of focused on having fun and doing whatever they want because this is the first time they've had freedom in, like, since they've been Blade Runnered. So they just want to go out and do what they want when they want to do it, and they're just bringing 16 along because he has an objective. It's like, okay, we'll go do what you want to do, and we'll do what we want to do doing it. He ends up being kind of their moral compass in a lot of ways, which is really, I think, what kind of changed the timeline.
Yeah, I think the reason that Android 17 and 18 are different characters in that timeline is because 16 was there.
This cannot get any dumber.
Agreed. Sure is a lot of not killing Goku going on right now.
A deep understanding of the source material couldn't be clearer from some of the additions Team 4-Star made to the original script. Any long-running franchise will have its peaks and valleys, and fans know better than anyone what the community responded to and what they didn't. Despite the show starting out as a straight-up comedy like countless other abridged series that came before them, as the years went by, Kaiser, Lanny, and Taka began to see an opportunity to defy expectations, to catch viewers off guard, and to give Dragon Ball Z the respect they knew it deserved. It's much easier to make someone laugh than it is to make them cry. How did you approach the more dramatic scenes like Goku and Gohan in episode 60?
If we were to expand any further on the idea of how we really approach that, it mostly comes down to our own personal psychologies at that point in our own life experiences, because you write what you know. To a certain extent, like, we all have our own relationships with our fathers, and we all believe in a certain ideal of fatherhood, but we also understand that people are imperfect, and part of growing up is realizing that your parents don't have have about as much figured out as you do when you hit that point in life.
Yeah.
And that's a frightening and startling realization for a lot of people. So Goku being able to admit to Gohan, who at this point in our series has been looking at him like this slack-jawed idiot who's irresponsible, who doesn't know what he's doing, and for Goku to be able to admit to him, I'm bad at this stuff. I'm good at fighting. I know how to do that. It's what I like doing. I didn't realize that you didn't. In many ways, apologizing for not recognizing these features in his son, but letting him know how proud he is of the person that he has become and will continue to grow to be.
I'm sorry. Fighting it makes me happy. And I just thought it would make you happy too.
I think when you're writing for a scene that is supposed to make people cry, the first thing you have to do is establish a true emotional, human connection between either two of the characters or the character in the audience.
More so, be real.
Yeah. When I write for these scenes, one of the things that I go for is stark, raw emotion. With Piccolo and Kami breaks at a point. He breaks when he says, well, maybe I'd rather be dead instead of part of you. Why does he say that? Does he hate Piccolo? No, he doesn't hate Piccolo.
It's because they were the same person, and he hates that part of himself. But we all have a part of ourselves that we hate, that we wish we could get rid of.
But he also notes that he's been stuck in the same place for a long time. He notes that this was a prison. This place is a prison for me. I am stuck here. Like, he even mentions all the things that happen down there I can't do anything about because I can't leave. And then he mentions to Piccolo, if I put myself inside of you, all I've done is trade one prison for another. And that's a little peek into what was Kami's life like.
Now the only chance I have left is giving up my free will to someone else. It's just another prison.
And then when it comes to the Android 16 scene, when I wrote that scene was supposed to be about a young man who loves his father and trying to communicate with him.
In a manner of speaking, trying to follow in his footsteps, as his dad was part of the Red Ribbon Army. It's like, oh, hey, I'm gonna, do you proud, Dad.
Yep.
I might not be as smart as you are, but I'm gonna go out there and do my job for this thing that you believe in.
And that's why during that video call that he has with his father, I sat down with Joshua Remix, and I really told him, okay, this delivery has to be as human as possible. There's no joke in this scene. It's just a young man talking with his father.
Yeah, shooting him a message.
Yeah. With a fucking bird in the background.
We gotta go! Okay, sorry about this, Dad. Gotta run. Love you. Good luck with your cyborg.
And then when it came to the scene with Gohan and Goku, it was just all about, this is the moment where Goku connects, full on connects with his son, tells him exactly what he needs to tell him in that moment.
And more so, it's about payoff. All of these jokes that we've made about Goku being a bad dad, it's time to pay those off in the way that, he might have been from a certain point of view, but he didn't mean to be. He wasn't trying to be a bad dad.
Yeah.
He just wasn't good at it. It's something that he wasn't built for.
We had gotten a lot of, and I believe due criticism for how we handled the whole father, Goku being a bad father thing. We leaned too heavily early on because that was the joke of the fandom. And that's something I've talked about, where in the first season, we were leaning into jokes that were already established because we didn't think about making our own versions of these characters and playing that out straight. We just thought, oh yeah, Goku's bad dad memes and a bunch of bullshit.
But if we hadn't leaned into that, we wouldn't have had as strong of a payoff with that scene. I don't regret making the kind of jokes that we made. First of all, because like you said, those were that was the culture at the time and still kind of is now.
Yeah.
People are kind of coming back around to it.
Yeah, people are finally accepting that Goku is not a terrible father. He's just not conventional and he struggles with it.
Yeah, he's an anime dad.
Yeah, he still loves his son. He loves his wife. He loves his family and will protect them.
He just happens to be dead and gone a lot.
Yeah.
Fly, son.
And that pretty much wraps things up. 67 episodes, 11 movies, 3 specials, over 16 hours worth of content in 3 entire seasons over 12 long years. I think saying goodbye to something you've grown up with is almost always a bitter pill to swallow. Dragon Ball Z Abridged appeared during a period of time when Dragon Ball itself was almost completely absent from the mainstream zeitgeist. A fan-made parody that united old and new fans alike long before the likes of Dragon Ball Kai and Dragon Ball Super hit the airwaves. It wasn't ever encouraged by any official production in the West or in the East. It was barely even supported on YouTube. And more often than not, it was an uphill battle for them. But for 12 years, they made this incredibly silly, wonderful, and heartfelt show for us all to enjoy. So, as hard as it is to say goodbye, I'll leave you with this. Thank you, Team 4-Star. You were hilarious, and we quoted everything you said.
I'm just not afraid of change, I guess. I've never been. When it comes down to it, I know they're gonna be alright. Because if I've learned anything since landing on Earth,
Big F there.
it's that everyone is stronger than they think they are. I left behind the best people in the world, and I'm happy about that. Things changed, and they're gonna keep changing. There ain't no stopping that. The most important part? Now, they can live their own lives and make their own futures. And I can't wait to see the kind of future they make. Huh?
What?
I'd like to extend a special thank you to Team 4-Star for being so open and eager to participate in this project. I would also like to thank Tom O'Regan, another YouTuber who creates incredible and hilarious video game breakdowns. Without his help on this, it almost certainly wouldn't have happened in the style that it did or on time. You can check out Tom's channel here, and if you haven't seen the other parts of this series, check out part 1 on Team 4-Star's channel by clicking the prompt on screen now. But that'll do it for this week. Thank you so much for watching.